The movie begins with Chris Cole, a movie star famous for his franchise Icarus Rush. He is always followed by paparazzi. Zara, Chris's assistant, is stuck in traffic and needs to get to Chris quickly. Chris sends Zara a message asking her to get to the restaurant. He tells his girlfriend Ashley how important she is to him, making her think he is going to propose. When Zara arrives at the restaurant, she gives Chris a red box. Inside, Chris shows Ashley a pair of diamond earrings and says he needs to focus on his new movie. He tells Ashley they need to end their relationship. Later, Chris is worried about the movie script. Zara suggests getting someone to rewrite it. Chris agrees and says he will find a new writer. He tells Zara to come to his house at 8:30 the next day. That night, Zara talks to her mother, Brooke. Zara feels lost and unsure about her future. Brooke comforts her, saying that Zara is smart and talented, and her hard work will pay off eventually. Brooke reminds Zara that Chris promised to train her to run his company, and that she should remind him of that. Later, Chris calls Zara and asks her to run an errand for him. Zara goes grocery shopping, looking for what Chris asked for. Chris admits it's been so long since he last was inside a grocery store. He smiles meaningfully as Zara describes the aisles and the products around her. He then asks Zara to buy him something interesting and fun. The next day, Zara visits her friend Stella and asks if she can rewrite the script for Chris's movie. Stella refuses, saying she is a playwright, but Zara insists she needs help. Zara returns to Chris's house and enters the code to open the gate. She is confused when it doesn't open, so she calls Chris. Chris refuses to let her in because he's disappointed she's late and even ignored his call. Zara mentions meeting her writer friend. However, Chris doesn't care and demands an apology letter from Zara. He threatens to fire her if she doesn't have everything he asked for. Zara loses her cool, exits the car, throws Chris's things into the property, and starts climbing the gate. She finds him working out, barely paying attention. When she admits she climbed the gate, Chris calls her desperate. Zara finally tells him she is quitting. Chris is surprised and runs after her to stop her from leaving. He insists that finding someone trustworthy over the weekend will be hard. Zara says she will train her replacement but can't stay with him anymore. She reminds Chris of his promise to train her to run his company someday. She expected to be an associate producer and then a producer, but after 2 years she's still just his assistant. Zara complains that she has no experience in producing because all she does is pick up his dry cleaning. Chris thinks she doesn't understand the business at all. Zara gets angry because she cares for him and believes she should be running his company. Chris is already stressed about his new movie, and Zara leaving will make things worse. He says he's received the movie money and can't return it due to his expensive lifestyle. Zara shakes her head, realizing Chris will never promote her. Chris opens a plastic bag with his stuff and is furious to find his shirt mixed with dirty sneakers. He confronts Zara and fires her. Filled with anger and frustration, Zara leaves the house, swearing never to return. Later, Zara gets home with her friend Jeannie, who needs something fancy for a meeting with her boyfriend's parents. Zara asks Jeannie not to tell her mother that she quit. She doesn't want to admit her mother was right, so she decides to keep it a secret for now. That night, Zara finally reveals she quit her job. She wants her mother to console her, yet she feels like she is picking on her. Brooke thinks Zara has a habit of walking away from things, but asks her not to get offended because she only wants what's best for her daughter. Chris goes to Zara's house the next day to ask her to work for him again. He lets himself in when no one opens the door for him. Brooke is the only one home and even mistakes him for an intruder when she sees him. Chris can't believe how young Zara's mother looks. Even though she's shy, Brooke manages to explain that Zara is out on an errand and won't be back for a few hours. Chris decides it's best to wait for her, and Brooke lets him stay. Brooke changes into a dress to look more presentable. When she returns, Chris confesses he's doing a movie with a terrible script. He admits he's only doing it because it's part of the Icarus Rush movie franchise. Brooke admits she's never seen any of the Icarus Rush movies but offers a copy of the Icarus Myth to Chris. Inside the office, Chris notices the awards on the shelf. He is impressed when Brooke says she is a writer because Zara never mentioned it. He asks Brooke for advice as they share a bottle of tequila. They continue to talk about Brooke's husband Charlie, who passed away 11 years ago. Chris pays attention but keeps telling Brooke how beautiful she looks. They keep touching, closing the distance between them. He kisses Brooke's hand and admits she is very easy to talk to. Chris comes closer and finally kisses her. Brooke pulls away at first before diving into a full makeout session. When Zara pulls into the driveway, Brooke and Chris are already going at it in the bedroom. She looks for her mother and almost loses it when she finds her taking charge of a rodeo in the bedroom. Zara is so surprised she almost chokes. She screams at the sight before her and runs into the wall on her way out. She hits her head so hard that they decide to take her to a doctor. Chris later offers Zara the position of associate producer, thinking that would get her to work for him again. Zara says she'll go back to work but that what happened between him and her mother should never happen again. Zara finally starts working as an associate producer. She mentions the new writer and the script to Chris, asking him to check it. Brooke receives a message from Chris asking her out to dinner. She says no, but Chris still makes a reservation for the two of them. Brooke smiles and starts picking out something to wear. When she arrives at the fancy restaurant, she is surprised to see that he rented the entire place. Chris confesses that he used to work there and he's glad Brooke showed up. Chris shares the story of his sad life, saying his mother died when he was young. He adds that his brother also died and he left for LA after that. They both know that what happened to them can't happen again. So Chris says he still wants to be friends with Brooke. Afterward, he takes her to New York Street and shows her around. Brooke says she cares about Chris not because he's famous. Then Chris mentions a few lines from one of Brooke's writings to prove that he read some of her work. Soon enough, he moves closer to her and makes the first move before they start kissing again. When Brooke comes home, she confesses to Zara that she and Chris had dinner that night. She thinks there's something more to Chris and she wants to believe that. But Zara is worried that her mother did more than just have dinner with Chris. Soon after, Brooke spends a romantic weekend with Chris without Zara's knowledge. When Chris mentions finding a new writer for the script, Zara thinks it's her friend Stella. However, Chris says he found a different writer. When Jeannie returns the dress she borrowed, Zara takes it back to her mother's bedroom. She's surprised to see clothes sprawled on the bed. Then she notices the Icarus script on the bedside table, credited to her mother. She realizes her mother has worked on it for some time. After realizing that her mother is Chris's +1 at the gala, Zara takes Jeannie with her to the event. She tries getting in by introducing Jeannie as Chris's nutritionist, but the staff says they are not on the list. Luckily, Zara sees Chris's publicist who lets them in. Her heart sinks when she sees them flirting. Zara confronts her mother and insists she is not the first one who assumes there is more to the relationship with Chris. Brooke says she hasn't felt that way since her husband. Zara explodes in anger at what she hears. She says it's already difficult being an award-winning writer's daughter. She expresses disappointment that Chris picked Brooke over the writer she chose for him. Zara says she'll move out if Brooke doesn't end it with Chris. Brooke says Zara shouldn't have moved in the first place. She realizes her words hurt her daughter, but it's already too late. That night, Zara sleeps at Jeannie's house. Brooke has to spend Christmas with her mother-in-law, Layla. Chris is devastated he won't be spending the holidays with Brooke. He tells her he loves her and immediately regrets it. Brooke smiles and then ends the call. Over at Layla's house, Brooke admits she didn't invite Chris because of Zara. Layla suggests that she should invite Chris if she wants to. When Zara arrives at her grandmother's house, she complains about Chris and why she doesn't like him for her mother. But Layla says it's Christmas and she expects Zara to be on her best behavior. She says it was her idea that Chris spends Christmas with them. During dinner, Chris admits he never had a home to spend the holidays in. He says that without them he'd be very sad. Later that night, Brooke admits to Layla that her relationship with her husband Charlie wasn't perfect. She admits that Charlie wanted a divorce even before his diagnosis. Despite Charlie's coldness towards her, Brooke says she loved and took care of him until he died. Layla then gives her blessing to Chris and Brooke's relationship. Zara is hiding in the hallway, listening to the conversation with a worried look on her face. Chris gives his Christmas presents to Layla and Zara. He then surprises everyone when he gives Brooke a book containing her written works and short stories. She appreciates it and kisses him. After Christmas, they start packing their things in their cars. While doing so, Zara notices a familiar red box peeking from Chris's bag. She picks it up, opens it, and finds a set of diamond earrings inside. She returns the bag quickly before the two come back. When Zara arrives at Brooke's house, she drops everything and grabs Chris's bag. Brooke and Chris are laughing in the kitchen when Zara walks in and asks Chris to leave. She starts naming all the ridiculous requests Chris has made before. She says Chris is not always nice to her and would even make her write an apology letter if she made a mistake. Brooke looks over at Chris as she listens to her daughter. Then Zara reveals that Chris always gifts his exes the same pair of diamond earrings when he breaks up with them. She shows the red box to her mother to prove her point, saying he already bought her a pair. Brooke is shocked by the revelation. Chris explains that he was looking for a Christmas gift and thought about giving Brooke the diamond earrings, but decided against it. When Zara asks if Chris took Brooke to New York Street, she is taken aback. She asks Chris to leave the house. Brooke then asks Zara if she really knows Chris that well. Zara insists that she does. Then Brooke looks very disappointed with her daughter, saying she wishes Zara didn't have to act like she did. Heartbroken after the fight with her mother, Zara goes to Jeannie's house for a sleepover. Jeannie is visibly upset, but Zara continues to talk about what happened. Zara asks to stay the night and looks for Jeannie's boyfriend. Jeannie and her boyfriend have already broken up, but she says she couldn't tell Zara about it because she was dealing with her own problems. Zara is upset that Jeannie thinks she can't rely on her. But Jeannie is frustrated that Zara makes everything about her. That night, Zara stays with Chris's housekeeper, Mila. However, Zara makes up with Jeannie just in time for New Year's Eve. After a few days, Chris admits to Zara that he had thought about ending things with Brooke. However, he thinks she is different. He admits he's never fallen in love in New York before, but he did when he was with Brooke. Zara then reveals that her mother is busy because she's moving to Princeton to teach. Later, Zara apologizes to her mother. She says that when her father died, she was very unhappy and took it out on her mother. Zara then says her mother deserves all the love in the world. However, Brooke doesn't want to talk about her and Chris, saying their relationship is over. When Zara takes Chris to a grocery store, he's surprised that no one is paying attention to him. A few minutes later, Brooke arrives with Layla and sees Chris with Zara. Brooke realizes that Layla's request was to get her to the grocery store. Zara apologizes for everything she did and says Chris and her mom's relationship deserves a real chance. Chris tells Brooke that he doesn't want to be alone anymore and wants her in his life. Then they kiss. 1 year later, Brooke and Chris are still together, and Zara is finally a producer. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe. See you in the next video.